بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين. All praises to Allah. We send peace and salutations upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It is time for the daily reminder. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire us the guidance. Allahumma alhimna marashida umurina wa qina shurura anfusina. Amin ya Rabbil Alameen. May Allah inspire us the guidance and protect us from the evil of our souls. Allahumma ameen. Today in the daily reminder, we're going to be speaking about some mistakes in the upbringing of our children. Mistakes in the upbringing of our children. أخطاء في التربية. We call it in Arabic, أخطاء في التربية. And often you'll find the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam was talking about the children. And he was leading by example sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And he taught us that كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. All of you are like a shepherd and all of you is responsible for your flock. Basically you're going to be questioned for your children. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam also said بحسب امرئ من الإثم أن يضيع من يعول. It is considered ithm, it is considered a sinful act that you lose when it comes to your children, you lose your children, you lose the upbringing of your children, you don't focus on that, you don't spend on your children, you don't take care of your children. This is a sinful act. You're going to be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. So it is important to understand that it is your responsibility. As a father, as a mother, your children are your responsibility and they are your investment as well. They are a responsibility and they are an investment. Because everything that you're going to teach and plant in your children, you're going to reap similar reward. Whatever manners you are teaching them, whatever akhlaq, whatever deen that you are instilling in them, this is going to be in your scale of hasanat. If you taught your child truthfulness and he starts to act with truthfulness, all the life he's acting with truthfulness, you get similar reward. If you teach them salah, all the time they're going to practice salah, it is in your scale too. You get similar reward. If you teach them fasting, every time they fast, you get similar reward. Why? الدال على الخير كفاعله. Whenever you invite people to goodness, you will share similar reward to it. And this is khair. You taught your children khair. You taught your children how to pray, how to fast, how to make hajj, how to do this, how to do that. You made them Muslimin. What a great honor indeed. So they are a responsibility, and it means that if you teach them khair, they're going to be khair for you, an investment for you. If they learn from you bad things and foul language and this and that, also this is in your scale as well. So it is ism in this way. If you didn't teach them correctly, it is a sinful act. And if you teach them correctly, it's going to be an investment for you in your akhirah. Subhanallah. You teach the child Qul Allahu Ahad, every time he's going to read Qul Allahu Ahad in his salah, you get similar one. You teach him Surah Al-Fatiha, every time he's going to read Surah Al-Fatiha, it is in your scale. Imagine you teach them the whole Quran. You invest in that, right? So I want you to understand this in the beginning, that they are our responsibility. The children are our responsibility. Bring them to the masjid, make them love the masjid, etc. Make them love the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, etc. There are some mistakes in the upbringing that we need to highlight, so we understand while we are going onto in this road of teaching our children and preaching to them, that we don't fall into these mistakes. And they are major mistakes. One of the major mistakes is that you just start thinking that this upbringing is because of your cleverness. You do it because you are so smart. This is how you're going to manage upbringing your children correctly and investing for them here and there and educating them in the best schools and sending them to Islamic education here and there, etc. And you think just this thought in your mind that it is because you are so strong and focused, that's how you manage to upbring your children. No, ya ikhwa. Wallahi, Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who upbring our children. It is mahdu fadlin min Allahi alayk. We said it before. Everything that you enjoy or your children enjoy, it is because of the fadl of Allah. If it wasn't for the fadl of Allah Azza wa Jal, ma zaka minkum min ahadin. None of us will be pious if it wasn't for the fadl of Allah, including ourselves. You should understand that you must depend upon Allah for your children to become pious. You must return to Allah and you must make tawakkul ala Allah for your children to be pious. You see, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, in the Quran, Sayyidina Ibrahim made a beautiful dua. He used to say, رَبِّ جَعَلْنِي مُقِيمَ الصَّلَاةِ وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي رَبَّنَا وَتَقَبَّلْ دُعَاء. Oh my Lord, make me among those who perform salah and my progeny too. He could have just said, I'm a prophet. Of course my children are going to be pious. No. Sometimes you'll find the father is so pious, the children are not pious. The father is a believer, the children are not believers even. And vice versa. Sayyidina Ibrahim, his father wasn't a Muslim. Sayyidina Nuh, his son got destroyed in the Tufan, in the flood. So don't think that, okay, because I'm pious, of course they're going to be pious. No, not necessarily. So then what do? Turn to Allah Azza wa Jal. Hidayah comes from Allah. إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You don't guide whom you love. Don't think that you guide whom you love. The Messenger ﷺ, he had so much of great capabilities as a da'i to Allah, and his uncle didn't accept Islam. His uncle Abu Talib did not accept Islam. So don't think it's by cleverness, akhi. It is by Allah Azza wa Jal. Turn to Allah, make dua to Allah for the hidayah of your progeny. Keep on making dua. And don't give up. You say, Sheikh, my child it's not working. I tried so much. I don't know what to do. Make dua, akhi. Don't despair from the dua. Inshallah, one day that dua will work for your children. Inshallah, that dua will work for your children. Don't give up making dua for them. Making dua for them, for their piety. And don't make dua against them. لا تدعوا على أبنائكم تصادف ساعة استجابة. If you make dua against your child and it's the time of istijabah, Allah Azza wa Jal answer your dua, then you're going to be regretting. Don't make dua against your children. Make dua for them. Make dua, Allah fix them, Allah help them, Allah reform them, Allah make them pious, Allah make them musallis. Sayyidina Ibrahim, as I said, he was making dua for his children to be musalli, to make salah. Your children are not making salah, do like Sayyidina Ibrahim. رَبِّ جَعَلْنِي مُقِيمَ الصَّلَاةِ وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي رَبَّنَا وَتَقَبَّلْ دُعَاء. So the first thing to understand is that the upbringing of our children, it is fadl from Allah Azza wa Jal, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So turn to Allah to help you to upbring your children and to make them pious. The second important point, or the second important issue, or let's say there's a mistake also in the upbringing of our children, not taking care of the ilm al-shar'i, not taking care of the deeni knowledge of our children. We think, ikhwa, that our children are going to learn the deen from the air. We think that our children are going to learn all what we learn throughout the life. They will learn it just like that. They will pick it up just like that. You have to talk to them, of course. You have to speak to them. You have to teach them what is tawheed, what is salah, what is ibadah, what is zakah, what is fasting, what is akhlaq, what is manners, etc. You have to teach them. Who's Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Who's Ali radiallahu anhu? Who's Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu? Who's Umar? And you have to teach them and speak to them and instill this deen in the hearts of your children. You're not going to learn it from the air. You have to talk. As a mother, as a father, you have to talk. If you're not teaching them the deen, if you're not talking to them about the deen, then what are they going to learn? Either you give the education to your children, or the education from outside is going to be given to them. Either you preach to them, or others or other ideas will be preached to them. Either you affect or you will be affected. Either you give da'wah, or da'wah is going to be given to you and to your children. Either you knock on the doors, or your own door is going to be knocked at, and you'll find people coming with pamphlets of other faith, etc., and teaching your children these things. This point was so important because we see, yes, Islam indeed is the fastest growing religion in the world. But sometimes we soothe ourselves by saying Islam is the fastest religion in the world. But also we have people who commit apostasy. We have people who leave the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. And many times I got invited to speak to children who left the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the first mistakes that I noticed when we come to speak to someone like this is that the parents did not invest in any deen education. They didn't invest in the Dini education. Where they study? Oh, they study in a secular school. Is there any Islamic study, any madrasa, any Quran? No, nothing at all. So of course, if they spend 8 hours in the other schools and there is no deen at home, there is no deen in the masjid, there is nothing at all. Of course, what are you going to expect your children to be? They're going to leave the deen later on because they already absorbed so much of information about others and other faith, and they didn't get any information about Islam. Don't deceive yourself. Teach your children the deen of Allah and invest in the Shari education beside the secular. They were not saying that to deprive them of the secular knowledge, but they're saying that also make sure that they study Islam, they study Quran, they go to the masjid if there is a class, if there is this, if there is that. Look, otherwise later on you're going to suffer. Later on you're going to suffer. So make sure that you teach them the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at a young age, and start from young age. Don't say, later on I'm going to teach them. No, this is the time. Al-ilmu fi as-sighar kan-naqshi ala al-hajar. You teach them at young age, it's like engraving on a stone. It will remain forever, right? This is when you teach them in a young age. Teach them the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Invest in the Shari education. Let there be a library in the house, Islamic library, some books here, books about Islam. So they grow up and start reading, they start picking up these Islamic books and reading, and it increases the knowledge. Invest in that. Small maktaba, like this maktaba behind me. Right? There's a little bit of books there. You buy these books and you put it there. So the children, as soon as they start reading, they'll read Sahih al-Bukhari, they'll read Quran, tafsir here and there. They will learn the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Beside you talking to them, beside you taking them to the masjid with you, beside you let them go to some school, madrasa, etc., beside establishing a halqa in the house, beside being in the company of the pious people and the ulama, there is a class here, there's a class there, etc. Surround them with this deeni environment so they learn the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if they learn the deen of Allah, it is like you have equipped them with the weapon that will help them to face all the invasion, the fikri invasion, we call it. It's not necessarily a physical invasion, but it's invasion to the minds of our children. And nowadays social media and all of these things, it's invading the minds of the children. If you don't equip them well, they might drown in that sea of lots of ideas and thoughts. If you don't equip them with the deen, you will suffer later on. Sheikh, I don't know what happened, but they left the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and make us among those people who understand the importance of the Shari'i education. And I always say, ikhwa, alhamdulillah, in South Africa, the ancestors of the Muslimin here in this country, they had a vision surpassing even their time. It is a vision for far future, which we are enjoying now, that they invested in Islamic institutes. They invested in madaris, invested in schools, in Islamic institutes all around, so that our children and the next generations can find the deen still. And we must maintain these educational institutes. Otherwise, a time will come when we don't find any educational institutes, and then the children will leave the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. Make sure that you promote and you look after and you spread and you support these Islamic institutes. So, invest in the ta'aleem. Dini ikhwa, one of the mistakes also in the upbringing of our children, al-fadada, being harsh to them, being violent with your children, abusing the children physically, spiritually, talking ill to them, insulting them, speaking bad to them. All this is going to leave, it will leave our children broken hearts and broken souls. And later on, you will find that they're not sawi, it's not thinking well. Why? It is, the upbringing wasn't correct. The father was so harsh, the mother was so harsh, always insulting. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, ليس منا من لم يرحم صغيرنا. Is not part of us the person who does not show mercy to the children. Show mercy to them, deal with them with kindness. Don't beat them, ما ضرب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أحد قط. The Prophet never ever beat a child صلى الله عليه وسلم. And he was our role model صلى الله عليه وسلم. Also إخوة, another important point, and this is al-adl. Al-adl means justice between the children. You give something to this one, give something. Take care of this one, take care of that one. Cannot make injustice between the children. This will leave an impact on them later on. And you're spreading hatred where you don't understand, but you're spreading hatred between them. When you don't make this justice between your children, make sure you have that justice between your children. Another important point, ikhwah, is lead by example. Sometimes we don't lead by example. We tell the children, be pious, but make salah, but the father is not making salah. How? Of course, you lose your credibility. Of course, you're going to suffer, and they're going to suffer, and they're not going to practice. So be a role model, like how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a role model to all of us. Another important point, ikhwan, ending with this point, is that always honor your spouse in front of your children. Don't speak ill against your spouse in front of your children. Leave all your disagreements aside when the children are present. Mustn't be fighting in front of the children. The parents are fighting together in front of the children, and the children are looking, what's going on? What's happening here? It affects the children negatively, of course. All that fight that happens between the husband and wife in front of the children affects the children. You want to discuss anything, you can go to your room and discuss it, or let the children go elsewhere and then discuss it. But don't discuss these things and fight together against the children and start insulting and start speaking bad, etc. Or don't talk to your children about your husband or about your wife in a bad way. Don't destroy that picture of the father or that picture of the mother in front of the children. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the understanding and the wisdom to upbring our children in a beautiful way. Allahumma ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. And again, as I said, as I started with, it's a responsibility, and either you get thawab for it or you get judged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So make sure that when you are judged by Allah, your children are there as an investment for you, inshaAllah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the understanding. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه والحمد لله رب العالمين.